Welcome to the September 2021 block of the month, and this time we're going to be doing our outermost top and bottom borders. And so we're going to have a whole bunch of these little pieces cut, and we're going to sew them into groups of 2, just any kind of color combination that you're working within your quilt. And to do that, we're going to line these up and we're going to sew along this long edge here. So you can pin if you want. I just make sure the whole shape is aligned. And then using a 1/4 inch seam, we're going to stitch the long side. And we're just going to match up various pairs. And get the whole shape aligned. And then the last one. Get all my edges lined up there. Okay, and then we can go ahead and cut these apart, and then we're going to press them, and you can press to whichever direction or press open if you want. And I'm just going to do a finger press. I have them starched pretty heavily, so they kind of stay put when I do a little press on them. But I have a stack that is already done. And then now we're going to take our units of 2 and we're going to sew these together. Just keep going until we have a group of 12 within each border segment. And so I'm just going to kind of flip things around till I get the color combination that I'm wanting. And then we're going to line up our short ends here and stitch a 1/4 inch seam along those. Okay, and then from here, we're just gonna cut those apart. And I'm gonna do a finger press, and so we have groups of 2, and now we're gonna go ahead and sew those together to make groups of 4. And we'll just keep multiplying until we have 12 units within our strip. So this is what it's kind of gonna look like. So I'm just gonna kind of finger press and then put them in an order that I think is going to look nice. Okay. Okay, now we have 3 width of fabric strips of our printed border fabric, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to piece those together into one long strip. So I'm going to take one strip and put it right sides together with another strip. Now I'm going to just do a straight seam to join these. It's up to you if you have enough fabric to go ahead and do a diagonal join. I just prefer a straight seam. I like the look of that better than the diagonal, and plus doing straight you don't use as much fabric. So I'm just going to make sure right here I have my salvages lined up, but I am going to make sure that I'm not stitching so the salvages are in my seam. I want them way past my seam. So I'm just going to go ahead and use a line over here and make a seam. Okay, and then I'm just going to flip one of my strips that I just sewn, a free end up, and add the third piece the same way. And then we'll go ahead and just trim those off. Okay. Clip those apart. And I'm just going to use scissors and eyeball about a 1/4 inch seam and cut those salvage ends off. And then we have one long strip, and we'll go ahead and press these and get them ready to sew to our piece border. Okay, and I have the piece border, and I'm just going to go ahead and set my seams on one side. And you can hear how much starch I have in there. It makes it kind of a noisy piece of fabric there. So, and then I'm just going to press that nice and flat, and then find the other seam. Here it is. And again, I'm going to do the same thing. Just heat set that, flip this over. And I like to do like a finger press first, just to make sure I don't have any little puckers or gaps in there. And then press that flat. And then I'm going to press my piece border. And same thing here. I like to heat set first, then finger press, and then give that another press. And I'm just going to go through my whole thing, just kind of doing like an accordion. Fold it back, set my seam, finger press, and just keep going until the entire piece is pressed flat. And it's up to you. I like to just press to one side here. The border piece that is just the solid fabric is going to come next to it, so I'm not worried about lining up a bunch of seams. And also, there's not a ton of seams within, so if you want to press it open, it just makes it a little bit flatter, but just do it how you prefer. Okay, and that's pressed nice and flat, and we can join our solid piece to it now. Okay, I've got my piece borders and my long solid print width of fabric that is a printed border piece, and I am going to trim off one edge of this where the salvage is, because I don't want that in my quilt. Okay, and toss that. And now what I'm going to do is I am going to match up one of my pieced strips end to end, and I am going to put just a pin in there to kind of just hold it in place. And now I'm going to just kind of pull both of them and get them as flat as I can, right on top of one another. And then when I get to the end, I'm going to fold back and crease it right where I want to trim that. And so I'll just grab my ruler, put it right along that crease. Trim that, and then that is where I want to attach that border. So I'm going to put a few pins and pin one kind of in the middle. And then just lining up all the edges, making sure everything's flat. Put another pin in there. And then I'm going to do the same, put one more pin on this side, just making sure it's all flat. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and do a 1/4 inch seam on there and press that open. So we can go ahead and do that now. Okay, we're back at the sewing machine, and now we have our printed border pinned to our piece border, and we're going to go ahead and sew 1/4 inch seam and join those two together. Okay, and now that we have those joined, we can go ahead and let's press them. Okay, on our long piece, I've got my printed piece on top, and I'm just going to go ahead and heat set that seam all the way down the length of the border. Okay. And then with my solid piece of fabric on top, I am going to take my fingers and roll that seam back so that it's going towards the printed fabric. Okay, and I'm just going to kind of roll that so it's really flat, and then take my iron, and we're just going to run that right along there. Getting it nice and flat as we go. And then the same thing, I'm going to finish with rolling that seam so that it's getting pressed towards the printed border. And just a little bit left here. Okay, and then now we have our top and bottom borders all done. We'll just set those aside, and then we'll do the completion in another month's video. Thank you.